they might remember Mickey. Oh boy, hi everybody, Mickey Mouse here. All right, so
That's
I would
awesome.
do those kind of things, and then my friends would laugh, and I guess that's how it got started.
Wow, that is so cool. Hey everyone, and welcome to Rooted, where we are rooted in truth, growing in freedom, and prospering in life. We're your hosts, Josie and Symone Harms, and we are so excited to have a very special guest with us today, Jason Hewlett. He's an award-winning speaker, entertainer, and leader, known for his high energy and authentic presentations. His mission is to spread joy through music, family-friendly comedy, and inspiring messages. He was inducted into the National Speakers Association Hall of Fame and is the author of The Promise, a book and keynote that challenges individuals and organizations to live up to the commitments they make to themselves and others. Jason, I had the privilege of listening to you speak at an event in Sioux Falls a few months back and was blown away by your mission and your impressive impersonations. So we are just thrilled to have you on the podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Well, this is just an honor to be here with you two, and I appreciate the work you're doing. It's very rare to have an interview with two what for me would be young ladies, but obviously you're, accomplished human beings, and I'm just grateful to get the chance to chat with you on Rooted. This is awesome.
Yeah, we're so excited to learn more about your journey and also for the audience to just learn along with us. And before we get into your roots and how you got to where you are now, I'd love to just hear a brief synopsis of what do you do for our audience?
Yeah, so thank you for asking. I get to go around the world as a keynote speaker. I've been doing performances on stages for 25 years, and I have done that whether it was in the associations or corporations. It started more in the county fairs and schools, and then it worked its way to different opportunities. But yeah, I've done some things in the political space, which has been really interesting, religious as well, and faith-based. And so I've done that for a long time. I do something that's different than a lot of keynote speakers. Most keynote speakers would write a book and then talk about it. However, I started my career in Las Vegas as an entertainer. And so I do music and comedy mixed with impressions of artists that are very well known and legends. And I mix that into a leadership keynote speech. So it's something that nobody's actually ever done. It's very confusing to explain to people until they see it. And then they go, oh, I like that variety of a keynote speech, because it's like, you're not just listening to me talk. I'm actually performing, playing the piano, singing,
Wow.
dancing, making you laugh. And it's a very unique presentation, which is what you saw.
Yes. Could you kind of share more about that first Las Vegas experience that you had? I know that you played Elton John for a while there.
That's right. Yeah. So I tried out for a show called Legends in Concert, and that was on the Strip in Las Vegas at a hotel called the Imperial Palace, which actually is crazy to think it's no longer there. But I was Elton John for them. It took me a little bit. I tried out first and they said no thanks. I had to figure out a couple more things in his voice. Eventually I captured his signature moves and I got the job.
Wow.
And I became one of the top impersonators in the world as Elton John. And what I didn't share in my speech, because I don't know if it's as relevant anymore, but I was also Ricky Martin, which was the Latin lover Bon Bon Shaker singing La Vida Loca. And so I did that in the show as well. So I would come on stage as Ricky Martin and later as Elton John, and nobody knew it was the same guy. And I did that for a couple of years for that company.
Wow.
That's a pretty weird place to start your career. But it was awesome.
Yeah, that's great. I kind of do want to now jump back to, when did you first discover, oh, I'm really good at impersonations? This is something that I want to pursue. How did that even begin?
Well, that's a fun question. Back in third grade, I would say. This was mid-'80s. I grew up watching a guy on TV named Pee Wee Herman, and he was the biggest TV star. He was just he had a funny kid show called Pee Wee's Playhouse, so I could go, hey, everybody, and I dressed up as him for the third grade party at Halloween, and
Wow.
actually I was promised by a teacher who was frustrated with how loud I was. They said, you're so out of place here and you're too distracting to the class. But if you'll just be quiet for the whole day, then at the end we'll give you time to perform for the class. Would you like that? And I was like, oh yeah. And it took me about 2 months till I had the chance to go up and address my friends. And I did my Pee Wee Herman impression. And that was really where I was like, I just have to be good through class and do my show at the end. Sign me up. So that became my first real performance.
That's awesome.
And doing voices of characters like Mickey Mouse, Donald, Goofy, anything that I would watch or music that I would hear became kind of the norm.
Okay.
So it was for your audience, they might remember Mickey. Oh boy. Hi everybody. Mickey Mouse here. All right. So
That's
I would do those
awesome.
kind of things. And then my friends would laugh. And I guess that's how it got started.
Wow, that is so cool. I know you mentioned that you had a teacher that really saw something in you too and kind of pulled that out of you. Could you kind of share more about that story?
Yeah, and in the keynote, I had to whittle it down to just one teacher to highlight, but there were many actually that gave me the freedom to be who I am, including principals, because I was obviously in the principal's office more than most kids. But I did have a teacher in high school her name was Rosalind Hall. She was the choir teacher. I was not in the choir, but she heard me singing in the hall one day where I was just walking around like, hee, 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 wee, away, and she said, come into my classroom. She was from Wales. She had an accent. And I went into her classroom and she said, sing me a song. This is your audition. Then I didn't want to be in the choir. I was planning on being in the NBA, a basketball player. And she said, you're a singer, sing for me. So I sang a song I knew she wouldn't want to hear and I could leave. And I sang Alvin and the Chipmunks' Christmas song. You guys remember that song? Like, Christmas, Christmas, town is new, town for thousand, town for two. And after she heard me do that, she said, you have a gift. And I didn't realize that was a gift. I thought it was just a stupid thing I could do. But she looked at me and she said, you will make a living with your voice, young man.
Wow.
And I will teach you. And she pulled me out of every class she felt I no longer needed, like math, English, science, history,
Yeah.
and put me in the choir. And that changed my life.
Wow, that's awesome. So then once you graduated from high school, how did you know how to make this into a career? Because it's easy to have a talent as a kid and be like, oh, I'm so good at this. But how do you make money off of that? And how do you make a career out of that?
That's a great question that I haven't been asked often. And the truth is, I graduated high school. I had a full ride scholarship for basketball, which I turned away because I went on a mission. And I was somebody who was preaching faith and religion for 2 years in Brazil. So I had to learn Portuguese. And while I was there, I found out that I was unique there as well, not just in my hometown, not just in my school, but I was unique all over the world. And I could do funny things that would let people open the door for us to tell them about Jesus.
Wow.
And that was a unique thing, right? And so that's when I realized I should do something with this when I get home. So after 2 years of that, from 19 to 21, I came home and I found some mentors that actually had already done a career in show business. And they actually helped me open some doors along with my father, who had connections to Las Vegas. And luckily they got me on the right stages. And I just had practiced enough that I was entertaining enough for them to say, well, you're not good at that, but you're really good at this other thing. Can you work on that? And the next thing I knew, I was working in different shows and putting together something that a lot of people would say is not a real career, and it's become one, and I'm very grateful for that. I could have been maybe an actor or a singer or a comedian or something, and instead I wanted to do an inspirational, family-friendly show that could bring joy and spread light, and equally could keep with my roots, which are very important to me, and could share something wonderful for the whole family to enjoy. So that's what I put together. And now here we are 25 plus years later. It's crazy to think that it's been a career.
Yeah, that's great. And you mentioned how you're a man of faith. So when you moved to Vegas and you're in the entertainment industry, was this something that was difficult to balance faith and entertainment at the same time?
What a cool question. You are so mature to ask that. The truth is, I knew what I wanted and what I didn't. I had already made the decision that if opportunities came along that didn't allow me to keep my promise to myself and to God and my family, that I would turn them away. Mm-hmm. And candidly, I did get opportunities that were awesome. And the more I got into the world of opportunity and business and the Las Vegas glitz and glamour, the more I realized that was further away from where I needed to be. And so eventually when I was offered opportunities in casinos and so forth to have my own show, they needed to change my material. They needed to tell me what to say. In fact, they told me, you're going to be so busy, so famous, and you will not have time, and we don't want you to go out and speak to religious groups or to churches or to kids or schools. You'll be so busy working for us. And I thought, part of why I'm doing this is so that I can inspire children and families together and keep my promise of faith. And so it didn't fit. So I left Las Vegas, and I live where I live because of that's where I grew up in a place called Utah, Salt Lake City, Utah. And I can just tell you, with turning Las Vegas away, a lot of people said that's a bad idea. But for me, I needed to. And I'm still able to go back once in a while and do a gig there. That's great. But it's because of corporations and organizations like the ones you saw me at in Sioux Falls that made everything possible for me, because they said, we want Las Vegas entertainment to come to us, but we need it to be family friendly because the governor might be there and families might be there and business owners might be there. And I said, I'm your guy. So I've made a nice niche for myself.
I love you were mentioning the importance of keeping your promises. And that is something that you kind of highlight throughout all of your keynote messages. Could you kind of share for our audience's sake, what does that mean? And what's the difference between a promise and a goal?
What a great question as well. I can say that for years I've been talking about the importance of making a promise. And I kind of joke about it by saying, why set a goal when you can make a promise? And that's not to say goals aren't important. They are. But if you set a goal, you just miss it. You just set another one. Whereas if you make a promise and break it, that's a one and done. And I kind of make it where people might say, well, I like goals. And I say, hey, I like them too. But goals are particulars, or promises or proclamations. So what do you proclaim you're going to do no matter what? And promise is a sacred goal. So I liken it to a man and a woman are standing before a priest. He looks at the woman and he says, do you promise to be faithful to this man? And she says, I do. And then he looks at the man and says, do you promise to be faithful to this woman? And the guy goes, well, I set a goal. Like, that's just not strong enough, right? If you're getting married, you want to promise. And if you're going to do something, you want someone to promise you. Your goals are important to you. So set them and keep them and hit them. If you don't hit them, that's okay. But what is the main promise every day you're going to do? And I teach leaders now to say, if you say you're going to do something, then you must do it. And making and keeping a promise is the most important thing you can do to your family, to yourself, to the people you work with and for.
Yeah, that's great. What are a few of the examples of promises that you have made that you live out every day?
Oh, I mean, one thing that I do, it's even on my phone. Years ago, I realized that I was too engrossed and infatuated with Facebook. And obviously, social media started to take over our lives, and it's been introduced to us, and new apps are coming out and new social media platforms. But for me, it was Facebook. And I had a young family. We had 4 kids in 5 years, and I was obviously trying my best to be a good dad, but one of the promises that I wanted to be was a better dad. And it was like I had set a goal to be a good dad, but it wasn't until I made a promise to be the kind of dad any kid would want to have that I had to look at my Facebook usage. And I realized how much it was distracting me being on my phone. So I deleted it. And to a lot of people, that may sound like a wimpy promise. But for me, that was hard because I get work when I'm on social media. And so, but it was distracting me from being fully present with my family. And so, yeah, I deleted the app, and that changed my life and my relationship with my kids, I believe.
That's good.
My wife actually coached me through that. My wife is the great, promise keeper in our family. And so she guided me that way, and I'm thankful for that. But I'll tell you, deleting that was tough because here's what I have to do, you guys. If I'm going to post on social media, and I have to do it every day, I reload the apps on my phone every day so I can post and like and comment as fast as I can on everybody else's stuff, and then I delete it. And some people are like, you could do it on your laptop, dummy. Well, I've made a promise to myself that that's where I'm going to function in the social media realm. And those types of things for me have been very small, but it really moved the needle promises. So I can be fully present with the family in front of me. Same with promises like working out or eating healthy, things that add up. And once you put it all together, you say, gosh, I'm living a life of promise. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
How about you guys? When you heard me, was there something where you were like, I could promise to do this differently? Or, maybe it was even like with this podcast that you're doing. Was it like, hey, we need to ramp up our game or something? Did you have any promises that affected you, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the one that stood out to me the most was you mentioned that your promise is to spread joy. And I think that's so beautiful because I think that so often we get caught in a world of negativity and a world of just always thinking of the worst. And I feel like my natural tendency is to worry and think about all the possible things that could go wrong, when instead, when I'm rooted in Jesus and rooted in truth, I am naturally positive and I look at just the joy and the gratitude. And so the idea of not just saying, okay, I'm going to be positive, or I'm going to look at the good or find the good or seek the good, but actually making a promise of I'm going to be joyful in any situation, any circumstance. And so that's been something that really stood out to me, is just having the promise of being filled with joy no matter what. Because happiness is dependent on circumstances. Happiness, happiness can come and go, but joy is a choice, and joy is a decision to see the good in every situation.
Yeah.
Josie, what a great answer. Thank you. Symone, how about you?
I would say something that came to mind was promising myself a time of rest. And I'm a very go-getter person. All these things need to be done, to-do lists all the time. I involve myself at college in so many different activities and so many different leadership positions and stuff that I don't realize, oh wait, I'm kind of running myself down right now actually. And now I'm not having enough to give back to people or enough time to spend time with the Lord and really be at a state of peace and at rest. And so I would say, especially going into this year after this summer, I would say a promise I want to make to myself is having Sunday, specifically Sunday, actually be a time of rest and actually be a time of Sabbath, because a lot of times my work just gets pushed to Sunday and I never make time to just sit down and journal or do something that doesn't require a lot of brain energy, but something that just relaxes me and keeps me at peace. So I would say, finding time to be at rest, and then that way I can fill my cup up so then I can give more to other people in the end the rest of the week.
Symone, that is just so eloquent. And thank you both for those incredible answers. I think a lot of people think in terms of what more can I promise? What more can I do? What more can I become? And the fact that you're thinking rest, joy, very simple, and yet profound. It'll help run your life and bring you closer to God. And that's what's so beautiful about what you just said. Thank you for sharing. I hope that your listeners understand the gravity of the power of your words and the spirit from which they come, because that was very special. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thanks, Jason.
Yeah.
One other thing I would just love to highlight is, so we've obviously talked about the promises that you make to yourself, but to others. But another thing that you kind of emphasize is looking at the signature moves and kind of how people perceive you and interpret you. So could you kind of share a little bit about the importance of signature moves and just how it relates to your role as an entertainer?
Yeah, cool. By the way, are we doing a recording on video, or is this just audio for your audience?
This is video and on video.
Okay, good. Okay, so then I can show you some stuff, right, for those that are going to watch. So when it comes to signature moves, everybody has them. Whether you look biblically at the signature moves of somebody like Moses, who was wandering around in the desert, but this great leader who was parting the Red Sea, to the signature moves of celebrities that have things that make them unique. Like Michael Jordan, he stuck his tongue out and won basketball games. And there are signature moves that we're all known for, I believe, whether we're famous or not. And I also believe that if you identify, clarify, and magnify your signature moves, that you can bless the world even better. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, so often, we only think about what we can improve upon, and we only think about what we're lacking. But imagine if we leaned into what we're great at and that God blessed us with. He gave us gifts and talents. I mean, there's the parable of the talents. Some were given 5, some were given 2, and one was given 1. The guy with 5 doubled his. The guy with 2 doubled his. The guy with 1 was a slothful servant and buried it. So do you choose to share yours and magnify it, or do you choose to hide it? I as a kid, I found out that I could share mine and it made people laugh. And so that was important. And I found out that I could do some things with my face, like my upper lip. And for those that are watching, I'm showing you that I could move my lip. Now, the first thing I could do was just one side, and the dentist said, can you do the other? And so I multiplied that gift. And then I found out I could do the bottom lip as well. Now I could talk at the same time and make people laugh with all these weird things that I could do. Now, why would I share that? Well, it makes people laugh, first of all, but it also hopefully gives you permission to think about yours.
Yeah.
Because you have talents I don't have, and I have talents you don't want. So how do you share your gifts? I think too many people hide them because they think, oh, it's not that great that I can, bake these cookies and I don't need to bring them around. Or it's not that cool that I'm, know everything about every fantasy novel or whatever. I mean, there's all kinds of different ways that we have our talents. Solving problems, being a leader, the person that cares for others easily. Everybody has their thing. It's your signature moves. And if you don't share it with the world, you're breaking the promise, I believe, as to your purpose, as to why you're here, which is to shine light. And as my mom said, that, you need to smile wherever you go, because the light you shine is the light you receive. And so that's part of what Signature Moves is. Identify, clarify, and magnify your gifts.
That's awesome.
I was going to ask if you could share the TJ bus story, because I think that is a prime example of people living out their signature moves and being authentically who they are.
TJ the shuttle driver, quite a story. I'll do the real quick version because this is about a decade ago. I got on the long-term airport shuttle, which is their whole promise is just to get you back to your car after a long flight. But I got on the shuttle and there was this driver that came on and said, well, hello, everybody, and welcome home to your airport. What you didn't realize is that you're on the party bus. So I need everyone to say, yeehaw. And none of us said yeehaw. There were just a few people on the bus with me. And she looked at us and she was like, well, I guess nobody wants to go home. So if anyone wants to go home, you need to say yeehaw. And I went, yeehaw, like an angry yeehaw. And she goes, all right, here we go. So what she was doing is she must have set more than a goal to make people have a laugh. And she created an experience unlike anything I've ever seen on a shuttle.
Yeah.
And so now I tell the story that as we drove around and she was telling jokes that made no sense to us, we didn't even laugh. She pulled up to the first stop and there was a woman standing there with her bags. Now, most of the time you get on a shuttle, these people, the bus drivers do not move. This shuttle driver, TJ, she threw it into park, ripped off her seatbelt, ran down the stairs and grabbed the luggage of the woman waiting. Flung it onto the shuttle, and as she came back on the shuttle, as the confused passenger walked on, the little shuttle driver, TJ, said, hey, everybody, how do we welcome our new friend? And we looked at that woman and went, yeehaw! So now we did this with every family and person that got on the shuttle following that. Yeehaw! 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 Now we're laughing and having a great time. We're fist bumping, high-fiving strangers we've never met. And I call this the creation of an engagement experience, because a promise is the highest level of engagement we commit to in any experience. It's greater than a goal. I don't think that it would have been strong enough for TJ to say, I'm going to set a goal today to make people laugh. She'd have probably quit after the first round of people didn't laugh. But instead, she made a promise to create something that we didn't know we wanted. Mm-hmm. And now I talk about it around the world, and it happened 10 years ago. Wow. I've only seen TJ a few other times, but I'm just telling you, her show has changed. She can't run as fast and grab all the bags as much, but she still makes everyone laugh. She still gets the yeehaw out of everybody. And I believe that everyone can do this in their scope of work, wherever you find yourself in life. Like my wife, she does not work outside of the home, but she works so hard within our home. She has her signature moves that make her so special to us as a family. She influences our family, our community, our religious organization that we're a part of. I'm just so thankful for that. And so for somebody who's listening, they might think, well, I'm not on stage. I don't have a microphone in my hand. Well, you are a performer. You are a special leader. You are a child of God. So how do you share that with the world? Because we need you to do that which only you can do.
Yeah, that's so good.
For people who are hearing this, they're like, yeah, I want to be a part of that. I want to find my signature moves. How do you go about doing that? Because it's easier to say, oh, yeah, I want to find out what I'm good at. But some people, it's like, I don't even know where to start.
Yeah, for years, I would just say, you need to find it. Think about it, and that wasn't very nice. I mean, they would come away confused. So we put together the ICM process. And if your listeners want to go to my website at jasonhewlett.com, you just put a little / and then you do ICM for identify, clarify, magnify. If you do jasonhewlett.com / ICM, you can get a nice assessment form that actually shows you how to do this. And it's really quite simple. So first you identify and you just start writing down all the gifts and talents and skills you feel you have. And I say write unedited, don't delete any, don't overthink it. Just write everything that you think that makes you who you are, what you identify with. For me, it was things like I'm entertaining, I'm a basketball player, I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I'm a person of faith, I write in my journal, I play the piano. I mean, it was just like, write everything that you can think of. Oh, I'm nice, I'm a Boy Scout, I got my Eagle Scout. Like, you just start writing down the stuff that you are. That's the identify piece. Then I say, you're just going to whittle it down to your top 10 that you like the most about you. And that's your list of 10 things you identified. Now, the next part, you're going to clarify by asking people you trust. So, like, you guys could ask each other, just be like, hey, what do you think my gifts and talents are? What's interesting is that you guys would probably come up with words for each other you wouldn't have come up for yourself in the identify process. So, clarifying with coworkers, parents, friends, spouse, children. It's interesting when my kids tell me what they think I am, because I identify that I'm funny. My kids, when they clarified for me, they said I'm hilarious. So for me, that's a better word, right? Or if I asked, I say I'm a hard worker. That's what I identify as. I'm a hard worker. My friends clarified that I am tenacious. That's a better word. So sometimes your friends, your family can find better words for you. So now you have an identify list and a clarify list. You can now put that together and say, I'm going to magnify what I identify and clarify are my signature moves. Now I'm going to work on them. So each day, if I said to myself, today I'm going to focus on being tenacious. What makes me tenacious? I'm just going to work my guts out for a day. And I can get a lot done in one day if I'm focusing on tenacious. And the next day, I wasn't as funny yesterday. I'm going to be hilarious today.
That's awesome.
Then you can just start to focus more on each of these signature moves that you're known for. And hopefully, was that helpful?
Oh, yeah.
That's very helpful. Yeah. And I love your emphasis, because I think so often, I love reading like self-help books and podcasts of that nature, but so often it's so focused on what you can do to improve yourself. But I love how you bring other people into it, because it's so much easier for other people to spot your blind spots, or also spot things that you're good at that you don't even realize. And it also is kind of inspiring as an individual to want to invest in others more and pull out and clarify things in others for other people. So I really appreciate that insight.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, I like how you say that. And the thing that's cool about this process is because when you do reach out and ask for someone to clarify for you, you say, hey, what are my gifts? What am I good at? You could say signature moves. They may not know what that means. But what's interesting is you could also say, when they just say, hey, send me 3 to 5 words if you can think of them. They'll send you some words. And then what's nice is you could send them back to them and say, these are what I see in you. And that's going to then ignite in them that they have gifts that they don't even realize they were looking for you to tell them about. And exactly what you just said, like a Mrs. Hall who saw me singing in the hall, heard me singing and discovered me essentially. That's how this process came about, was to say, the greatest pieces about what we share are what other people see in us that we don't even see in ourselves. I mean, you guys, I thought I was going to be a professional basketball player. I had a scholarship for that to college. I didn't do it. I went instead because of a teacher who said, you're a singer. And I became a singer and then a speaker and all the things I've become because somebody else saw it in me.
That's good. I like what you were saying, that everyone does have something and everyone does have a talent. And I think a lot of times when people think they don't have it, it's often because fear gets in the way of it. And they think, oh, okay, I might be good at singing, but I'm too afraid to try out for the musical in high school because people will make fun of me, you know? Like things like that, where fear stops people from truly discovering what they can do. And I wonder for you, if fear ever stopped you at any point in your life. Are there ever times when you were like, what am I doing? I'm not good at this. Or I'm afraid to get on stage right now. Has fear ever stopped you during your career journey?
That is such a cool question. Yeah, that's one of the reasons I put the keynote together, because it's fun to do a show and make everyone laugh, but it's really cool to give people permission to say, you should go for it, and you should go for that job opportunity. You should ask that girl out that you're scared to. You should, I mean, I hate to say should, but it's like, this is permission to try things out. And let me just throw a story at you haven't heard most likely. There was a girl in high school. She was so beautiful. I wanted so badly for her to just give me a chance, to let me go out with her. And I saw that she liked athletes. So I was like, okay, I'll become an athlete. So I worked really hard to become good at basketball, and she didn't care. And then I was like, man, it seems like she likes artists. And so I started drawing, and I became the newspaper artist of our school. And I worked really hard. I drew a picture of her, and she got it, and she was like, huh, okay. And she didn't like it. And then I saw that she liked guys that sang and were performers. And so I started singing, and I worked really hard at it. And she didn't like anything about me. And I worked so hard to win her over. In fact, I saw that she liked leaders and guys that were like speakers. So I ran for student government, became the student body president of the school. And she still didn't like me. Now, here's what's beautiful about that story, is that she led me to all the things that I've become that make me awesome. And we never went on a date. She never liked me at all. It's like the greatest gift in the world when there is rejection that leads you to success. So I hope that you're never too fearful to go for the job, the interview, or the girl. And I hope that as somebody's listening to that thinking, well, was that a waste of time for me to work on all those things? No, it's become my greatest assets of my life. And I did eventually win, because then my wife showed up and she was like, wow, that guy is really great at a lot of things. He must have worked really hard in high school at that. And it was because of some other girl that I don't know what's happened to her. I wish her the best. Hope she's well. But honestly, I win.
Yeah.
And
yeah, that's awesome.
I hope that each of us feel there is no reason to fear when we share our gifts. We explore what could be. And part of the identify, clarify, magnify process of signature moves is to say, you have innate gifted talents that you haven't found yet, and you can write down aspirations that you want to become. So maybe you need more education. Maybe you need to go change your body. Maybe you need to, work on some things that could really improve your life. And hopefully this message gives people the permission to do so.
That was great. Thank you so much.
I really love just your emphasis on, even the people that you don't even realize you're impacting, and people that they might not even ever meet you. They might never know your name, and yet you can leave an influence. And it reminds me of, your TJ story is a great example, but I remember when I was going to college, I had to get a mini fridge, and I went to the store and they didn't really have the mini fridges I was looking for. And there was one worker that helped me find a mini fridge, and he was just like leaving, his shift was ending, and he was the most helpful. He carried it out to our car himself, and I will never forget the guy that brought my mini fridge to my car and helped me find it. And he just did his job so well. and he was present in every interaction. And I only interacted with him for a few minutes, and yet he left a lasting impact. And I think that's just such a great reminder of, he probably didn't use the language of promises or signature moves, but he was living out a promise in that moment of being present and providing exceptional service to every customer.
Yeah.
And I think that just
such a great story.
I just think it's so great. And it's just inspiring to, no matter what, even if it's a 2-second interaction with someone, living out your promises that you've made. So thank you for sharing that.
What a great example. And you're right. They stick with you. And they don't even know that they made a difference really to you. Yeah. They're just being their greatness in real time. And that's a really beautiful thing. And I think the world deserves that. So when we're lazy or we're tired or we're feeling sad or whatever it may be, if we do have the promise of saying, I'm going to spread joy wherever I go, or I promise to be fully committed to my job every day and give 100% in every interaction, those are the people that make a difference. So I love that example. Thank you.
Yeah, that is good.
What would you say is your favorite impersonation to do?
I was wanting to ask him this one, so I'm glad you did.
Yeah, I mean, I get a lot of people asking that, and I would say it's probably the Elton John or Billy Joel, because I have focused on them quite a bit from the piano. But for the sake of this podcast, probably my Velociraptor is what I'm most known for, because I do this daddy dinosaur thing where the kids, when they were little, they're like, Daddy, do the dinosaur. And I was like, Arr! And they're like, Daddy, that scared him. Like, so I would chase them around the house. And the Raptors become a fun one because it's so bizarre. Obviously, there are dads on the internet that you can see on Instagram that have gone viral for it. I've been doing it now for 30 plus years since Jurassic Park came out.
The OG.
Running around. I think I'm the OG of that bit.
That's so cool. Could you give us a little Elton John and Billy Joel too?
Oh yeah, let's see. Let's do Elton John. It's like there's a calm surrender to the rush of day, when the heat of the rolling wind can't be turned away. Can you feel the love tonight? It is where we are, and it's enough to make kings and vagabonds believe the very best. Yes. And everybody's with their lights up. Yeah, it's a fun.
That is so good. Oh my gosh.
Those are fun.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever see Lion King? You know that movie?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, we were
Good
big
one.
Disney fans.
Yep.
So
Major Disney fans.
Watched them all growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's good stuff. Yeah, I'm grateful anytime the artists that I do impressions of have a new song that comes out, or if somebody uses a new Alvin and Chipmunk song in their latest movie. It's always helpful to me, because then people are like, "Oh, I love those voices," right? So yeah, awesome.
Jason, we just have one last question for this podcast. We ask all of our guests. It is, what is one piece of truth that you would encourage our listeners to be rooted in?
Oh my goodness, what a great question. Oh, I'd probably have to go to the Bible for that, if that's all right. Oh, yeah. I love, Jesus had the Sermon on the Mount, and he of course talked about how we do not put our light under a bushel. We should put it on a hill to be seen. And so if I could say anything, to be rooted in truth and to be allowing your light to so shine, that's really what my message comes down to. Do not hide it. Even if it to you feels weird, bizarre, no one cares. Trust me, when I was working on these things as a kid with my face, nobody ever thought that it would amount to anything. But it's now made millions of people laugh around the world, awesome. And given them permission to shine their light in their own way. And hopefully that everybody realizes your signature moves are significant. The Lord gave them to you. You must share them. And it's a significant thing when we're rooted in truth and we can share our light as only we can by keeping the promise.
Amen. That's so good.
Amen.
Thank you so
really
much.
Good.
And if our listeners want to look you up on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube, anything, where should they go? What should they look up?
Yeah, just my name is Jason Hewlett, and I have a book called The Promise to the One that they can get on Amazon. It's on Audible as well. It's me performing it, so that people prefer that in some ways.
That's perfect.
But yeah, so I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, X, where, everywhere. And I do post every single day because that's part of my promise to share light with the world. And but then I have to delete it from my phone.
Good job. That's awesome. Well, thank
you guys have been great.
Yeah,
thank you
so much.
Yeah, thank you. And we'll put all
you.
those in the show notes as well for those listening. And feel free to check out Jason's stuff. Thank you so much, Jason.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.